Hi, Abram. That looks like a serious microphone. We have 4 more minutes. At least I'm going to mention you during class today.
I hope good.
Maybe.
Oh, God.
Now you're going to be nervous until I do that, aren't you?
I am.
No, don't be. Okay, we have 2 more minutes. Everyone who's joining, please show yourselves. Everyone other than Camille. And no, I don't have anything against Camille, but Camille has a problem with her camera. But other than that, I would rather look at your faces than little gray boxes with names. There you go. One more minute before we start. Lisa, I don't know what the camera is, where the camera is pointing. There you go. You have a privacy thing. Oh wow, this doesn't work, but this does, I bet. Yeah. It's funny. I was mentoring a group of speakers Monday night at the NSA Academy, and one of them, I know it was late and all, and he probably had a very long day, but at some point he just fell asleep, and his camera was just, which was his phone, was just pointing at the ceiling. Okay, it is 6:30. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are going to have a pretty packed day today. So one of the things that I want to do, by the way, again, everybody else, that if you don't have your camera on, except for Camille, turn your camera on. I'd like to see you rather than just see a black box with your name. Okay, so we have a packed day today. The day is going to end with, again, you're going to be working on your business plans, but actually you're going to be working on the financials of your business plan and the executive summary. However, this is the last session, really, and so this is my last opportunity to emphasize the important things in this class. So we're going to start with really going over the important things and go all the way to summary. One thing, I want to give you a piece of advice, an interesting piece of advice. There is a tool that you may not be familiar with, but I want to share it with you. The tool is called OBS. Do you see an OBS screen?
Yes.
Give me a yes. Okay, thumbs up. What you see here, this is an editing tool, but this is an on-the-fly editing tool, and it is great to use on applications like Zoom or anything else. And the thing is that I can just decide what are the different elements, the different components, whether it's the little, I have a picture of my book that I can bring up or down. And eventually I hit the transition, and whatever I did, I edited on the left, goes to the right. So, it's just something that I wanted to share with you so that you will know that there is a tool like that. It's called OBS, Oscar Bravo Sierra, just in case you're interested. But with that, we're going to go ahead and start. Okay, so let me just make sure that I have all the windows that I need on the left. I want to see the chat window. 1 second, more chat window on the left as well. And I'm going to make sure that I'm chatting with everyone. And let's get started. There's going to be a little exercise at the beginning because I want to touch on what we did last week. But other than that, most of it is just going to be frontal. So I want to start with, and this is something that I've been doing, you noticed, and I will continue to do in additional classes, something from the headlines. You may have heard that on Monday, actually it was on Sunday, that the OPEC, actually it's OPEC plus countries decided to cut oil production by 9.7 million barrels, which is about 10% of the production. The reason they decided to cut production is if you look at the supply versus demand, what happens if we start reducing, if we start reducing the demand, when we, I'm sorry, we start reducing the supply. So if we start reducing the supply, what happens is there is a shortage, and as a result of the shortage, the prices are going to go up. Well, what happens to the price of a barrel of oil? The price for a barrel of oil actually went down. So tell me in the chat box, how come oil production was reduced by 10%, but prices of oil did not go up by 10%, which is what a normal supply and demand would do? Stephanie, you just nailed it. And Erica, same thing. Here's the thing. When you think about pricing, and this is the reason I bring this up, when you think about pricing, you typically think about it as if we reduce supply, the prices go up. If we increase supply, the prices go on. Demand goes up, prices goes up. Demand goes down, prices goes down. Well, in fact, what happened was supply went down, but demand went down even further, and as a result, the prices went down. So whenever you think about price, remember one thing. It is not about what you have to sell. It is not about how much you have to sell. It is not about how much it costs you. It's really about how much demand is there for your specific product. Now, in preparation for our exercise, and I'm going to send you to your team rooms, your breakout rooms, I want you to look at what happened last time. We spent about an hour on an exercise. You came up with ideas that you will sell for $20, would be good for a month, and your target market was the audience. I ranked them here based on the votes that they got. Foster a Pet got 17 votes. Sunny Light or Sunny Light got 11. The next group, all with 9s. Quarantine Message with a Bottle, Haze Mate Suit with 9. Recycle Ventilation Mat with this disinfecting spray set, 9. And then everything else went down from there in the number of votes. Now, this was not a perfect exercise, but since we have a good enough size group, we can look at this, and I want you, and I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms for really not more than 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at that list and prioritize in your group, what are your customers' top care abouts? It's okay to say not just what number 1 is, or number 1 and number 2, number 1, 2, and 3. Don't go beyond 3. Based on this list, I want you in your breakout rooms to state, what do you think, what do you believe your customers care about, and you know who your customers are, what your customers care about are. Is the question clear? Nod. Yes, it's clear. I'm going to send you all to your breakout rooms. Camille, I don't see you going to a breakout room. Do you know what is your number?
Hi, I'm so sorry. My number is 8. My internet is really bad today. I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, I'm going to send you to 8. Sabrina.
Thank you so much.
Same thing. I'm not sure where you are. But wait, I don't even see you here, Camille.
What's that?
I don't see you even out there. Let me just move you to another room. And well, no, I can't move you to another room. I'm just trying to get you. You appear. Did you get a message that says join your room?
I did not. I think my internet went right out, and then right when you had assigned it, I came back in.
Okay, let me see. Why I can't actually even move you. Let me try and move you to another room and then back to room number 8. I'll move
Okay.
you to 9. Okay. Sabrina, what is your room number? Sabrina, Kina, and Reach. Put your numbers on your rooms. Kina, it
I
looks.
wasn't supposed to move yet. Right, this is Camille. Was I staying for a little bit?
No, you were supposed to. I moved you to number 9. Did you not get a message that says join your room?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll give it another shot. Sabrina, you are in what room? Okay, I guess Reach, I don't see you. Reach, what room are you in? 11? Okay.
Sir, Patrick Leto joined a few minutes late. I'm room 4.
I don't see you here. Where are you?
I'm in the chat. I'm on my phone, so maybe that's why. Let me look. I just chatted that I'm in room 4.
Patrick, I don't even see you.
Okay, I'll leave and then join on my laptop.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes, sir. Be right back.
Camille,
Strange. I'm on my laptop. I'm not sure why.
Sabrina, you need to change your name to show what room you're in.
Professor, sorry, my computer just shut down on me. I'm at group 11. Whatever.
Okay, I'll move you manually to 11.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you think I should get off and then try to come on again? Would that be helpful?
I would say so, yeah. I
Okay.
can't move you. I don't know why. Kina, you just came back. Kina, what room are you in?
Am I Kina?
I don't know. That's what it says.
Maybe we did that for a video. I'll rename. Yeah, I guess that's what happened.
Patrick.
Yes, sir. I don't know what happened.
I'm guessing you used the wrong sign up. Let me move you to your room. I'll send you to your room and think about what you did.
Thank you, sir.
Camille, you're back.
Yes, and I am renaming it right now for you. I am in group 8.
Yes, I'm moving you to group 8 while you're doing it.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry about that.
Don't worry. Ha. Okay, she is there. Steve, what did you do? Were you all done? You're muted. Let me unmute you.
Sorry. Yeah, we were done.
Okay, sounds good. We have another minute before I give everybody 1 minute notice.
Okay.
One thing I wish with Zoom that windows would just stay where they need to be. They keep moving around. Anybody, Dave, are you familiar with the Maslow hierarchy of needs?
I think so. Is the Maslow's hierarchy the one where you first meet the minimum requirement and then you go with every extra step there is some extra value?
We'll talk about that. It's
I-
you're right in general, but it's very specific in what those needs are. Okay, everybody got 60 seconds before we go back. Okay. Okay, if you are still in the rooms, 15 seconds and we'll have everybody with us. And that is my signal. Okay, we have everybody back. And let's see, why don't you start writing in the chat room, everyone, what do you think the top concern is, or the top customer care about was? I see companionship, companion, hope, okay, companion, safe social interaction, companion, sensibility, soft, I'm not sure I follow this, Abram, connection, convenience. Was convenience really the top? I mean, if we look at the list, number one was foster a pet. What do you think? Why do you think foster a pet got the 17? Interactions, emotional support, Stephanie, very good. Cuteness. By the way, you know what? Yeah, people are lonely. There's a reason why we have support animals. And I'll tell you what, there are several lessons to learn from this. One of them, you know how I insist every time you submit something, I insist that you're going to, that visuals are important. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the top visual, those two dogs. By the way, do you still see my main screen, the presentation screen? Yes, good. So look at the top visual. The top visual is attractive. The top visual makes us feel certain things. I'll show you a quick video soon, but I wanted to touch on something that's called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Some of you may know it. You know, just raise your hand if you know it, if you heard about it before, just so that I'll get a sense, okay? Less than half of you know what it is. Hey, Brad, come back. Brad, come back. Don't go. Okay. So this is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In the bottom, the first thing that we need, the most important thing is our physiological needs. We will not care about self-actualization at the top or self-esteem, one below that, if, if our physiological needs are not addressed. Second level, safety needs. We care about safety needs once our physiological needs have been addressed. Above that is love and belonging. So here's an interesting thing. If we really, really cared about physiological needs, if we were worried about air, water, food, or shelter, some of your ideas had food involved in them, but those ideas did not rank very high. And the reason they did not rank very high, I mean, you would think that food is very important, is because you are not right now concerned about food. you feel that you have enough food, that's not going to be the main issue. Safety, this is why some of the other issues ranked high, things like things related to the mask and protecting you from the virus. Love and belonging, that would be where the pets are. And frankly, there was one team that suggested, let's go back up and see what they offered. Smart assessment body. You know what? It was just not ranked. Or $20 to win up to $980. It just did not rank very high if some of your lower, more important needs are not met yet. So I want you to always remember, when you rank your customers' needs, think about that, keep that in mind, and ask yourself, are there any needs at the lower level? And it's not less important being lower, it's more fundamental being lower. Okay, I want to show you another short video. And again, I want you to think about, what is it that customers care about?
It's as simple as e pluribus unum, from many, one. From many shades of lipstick, one that belongs to her. From a basket of kisses, she picks one. It makes her unique. It colors her kiss. And her kiss, well, it colors her man. Belle Jolie lipstick. Mark your man.
I only see one lipstick in your drawing. Women want colors. Lots and lots of colors.
Mark your man. It's pretty cute.
Oh, you like this? Well, maybe we should cut down to 5 shades or 1.
I'm not telling you to listen to anyone, but this is a very fresh approach.
It's okay, Kenny. I don't think there's much else to do here, but call it a day. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Can you hear the sound?
Is that all?
You're a non-believer. Why should we waste time on kabuki?
I don't know what that means.
It means that you've already tried your plan and you're number 4. You've enlisted my expertise and you've rejected it to go on the way you've been going. I'm not interested in that. You can understand.
I don't think your 3 months or however many thousands of dollars entitles you to refocus the core of our business.
Listen, I'm not here to tell you about Jesus. You already know about Jesus. Either he lives in your heart or he doesn't. Every woman wants choices. But in the end, none wants to be one of 100 in a box. She's unique. She makes the choices and she's chosen him. She wants to tell the world he's mine. He belongs to me, not you. She marks her man with her lips. He is her possession. You've given every girl that wears your lipstick the gift of total ownership.
Sit down.
Okay, write in the chat box. There are two. Oh, first of all, do you recognize the TV show? Who recognizes the TV show? Madman. Yes. Good. Okay, so there were 2 customer careabouts that were brought up in that video. What were the 2 customer careabouts? Choice, variety, I agree. Possession, Abram, very well. I was waiting for that, possession or ownership. Those were the 2. And actually, they even said that. The owner of the company, Kabuki, he thought that the most important customer care about was selection, the options, the choice, the variety. What was his name in the John Hamm? What was his name in that show? What was the name of his role, of his character? Anybody remember? Don Draper. Okay, so Don, on the other hand, or their company, said that the most important value is ownership. Which one do you think is more correct? Which one of them do you think is right? Ownership or variety? I'm looking at the chat box. It depends. Ownership, both. If you were the president of Kabuki, the company, the lipstick company, which one would you choose? Which one would you say? You're going to bet your marketing dollars on whether the more important part is ownership or selection. Now, Don Draper is a great speaker, a lot better than the owner of the company. Don't let that misguide you or influence you. Which one do you think? See, we have to, we still are not, even in this class, we are not necessarily in agreement. You have to keep in mind that different customers would want different things. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to kind of, oh, very important. Before we move on, you know, before I ask you to do this, there is, in this tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to touch on different things, independent things, until we get to financials, which is really the core of tonight. But I'm going to touch on a few things. So I wanted to touch about customer care abouts. And what I want you to do now is the university cares about this a lot. So let's please, let's not spend more than 5 minutes on this, but we do need to have a high number of, let me move you to another screen. We need to have a high number of student reviews. So go now to Canvas and put a student review until at least we have 80% of the students submitting them. I can't see them, so I can't. The only thing I can see, I'm actually going to share with you that screen. The only thing that I can see is this screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep on refreshing it. Right now, you can see that we're at 53%. 26 of you have submitted student reviews. This is all I get. At the end, I get the summary of what the reviews are. I don't get who did what, but you already know how this works. I just need you to, before we move on, let's spend not more than 5 minutes on this, but I need us to be at least at 80%. Simon is probably laughing now because he's getting more than 80%. Go do students review. And I know that 26 of you already have done this, but I need the rest. I don't know if it's different now than it was before, given the special circumstances. $30, we're getting there. We're still at 30. $36. 3, 4 more and we're done. Four more and we're done. Not yet, not yet. Anyone on the screen still working on it now? $40. We just passed 80%. Let's move on. Okay, time to share the main screen again. And we are sharing this screen. Okay, back to business. So some feedback on the assignment, the last assignment. First of all, I think the grades on this assignment generally were higher than previous assignments. I was really happy with what I saw. When you talk about the description of your product, this was the opportunity to write the description. Now, somebody asked me in one of the classes, you mean that the investor or the reader of the business plan is not going to see the any description of the product or service or process or whatever until they get to section 6? The answer is no. They're going to see it in the front page, and the first page is going to be the executive summary, and we'll talk about that. But in the description, you should include the value. Why do I need that? Or specifically, why do customers need that? What does it address? What problem does it address? In pricing, you may want to put a 5-year trend in your pricing. Are you going to go up, going down? When you do comparisons, when you compare, and this goes with the last bullet as well, what are the alternatives? Let me just make sure that I have the chat box open again, because there we go. What are the alternatives? So are there any alternatives to this product, and what are they, and how much do they cost? A few of you wrote, oh, we have this, we're pricing our product at, I'll just throw a number, at $12, which is really comparable to our competitors. That doesn't tell me a lot. We are pricing our product at the higher end, at the higher end of the competition. You may want to actually state, low end is $5, high end is $20. We priced our products at about $15, and here is why. And that's an important part, that you need to explain why, and why is it reasonable. Now, I'm going to move on to the, when you talked about marketing and promotion, can you see the commercials here? How many of you have been to Japan, to Tokyo, downtown Japan? Okay, only few. I've been there several times. The ads are all over the place. Everything is a commercial, and it is hard for any specific commercial to grab you anymore. And so when you write to me, I'm going to spend $2,000 a month on Facebook ads, what does it mean? What is that enough? Is that too much? Are we at an age where everything that I see on Facebook, or 80% of what I see on Facebook, is a commercial, and $2,000 will buy you nothing? So when you talk about your marketing and your promotion, you really need to show something like this. We're going to spend $2,500 in ads. Based on our research, that would give us about 2 million views. That's the first level. This is what's called the funnel. 2 million views. Of 2 million views, it is reasonable to expect 30,000 clicks. So 30,000 people who actually saw your ad that cost you $2,500, 30,000 of them are actually going to click and go to the page where you're selling something. Well, only 2,000 of the 30,000 will be spending more than 15 seconds on that ad that you have. Only 2,000. 150 of them would actually put your thing, whatever you're selling, in the cart and not buy it. Only 10 of them would actually buy. How much did it cost you to get one person to buy? I'm looking at the chat box. How much did it cost you? It cost you $250 to get one person to buy. it is, okay, you can all do the math. So it is not enough to say we're going to spend $2,500 a month on Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or any other type of ads. Now, somebody even said, one of the teams said, we're going to do TV commercials. Any idea how much a TV commercial costs? How many people will see it? How many people ends up buying it? A lot. Yes, Stephanie, it costs a lot. I would recommend not to do that during the Super Bowl. Those are the most expensive ones. But even not during Super Bowl, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. We can potentially be talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. It really depends on the size of the market. I don't want you to just say, this is what we're going to do, and we have no clue what it's going to result. Find data. Find data on how much does it cost to convert to one single purchase. Maybe if it takes $2,500 of worth of an ad to get 10 purchases, that adds to your 200. That comes out of your 200. Oh, I'm sorry, out of whatever cost or price you have for your product. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on that? Okay, I asked 2 questions to which the answers might be different. So let me ask, does that make sense? And I'm looking at the chat box. And on your faces. Yes, it makes sense. Any questions before we move on? No questions. Okay. Now, in the test, in the quiz, I asked you about, can you represent the value in dollars? So I want to kind of get back to that and put one last summary on that of that question. And here's my summary of it. I value the product or service as much as I value my money. This is our starting point. So value equals cost. Old value divided by cost equals 1. That's what currently exists. Now, what happens when the new value over the new cost is more than 1? After all, this is what makes them buy, right? But let me ask you I don't want to say philosophical question, but if we said that in a normal state, the old value divided by the old cost is 1, we just introduced a product where the new value divided by the new cost is higher than 1. So will that stay higher than 1? Will that forever stay our product? Will it ever stay higher than 1? I'm asking you. Actually, how about this? Alicia, why don't you unmute yourself and tell me what you think?
Well, as the new competitors come in, they're either going to increase your value or decrease cost, or maybe they could do both. So you're going to change the either denominator or numerator or both of that. And so eventually the value or the ROI of your product is going to become less than 1, or it's going to go down.
Somebody else, what do you think? Will my product, the new value divided by cost, always remain higher than 1?
I said it depends on the competitive advantage. Because if other competitors can't do what you're doing, then it will remain above 1 for a longer period of time. So first of all, we have to remember that the value is going to be higher than 1 only for a target market, because remember that we have a unique value proposition to a unique set of customers who appreciate that value. So only to them it's higher than 1, whereas maybe for other people they don't care about it that much. That's one thing. But the second thing, several things are going to happen. One, which is really rare, is that the cost is going to start creeping up. Or I'm sorry, the cost to the customer, which is your price, is going to start creeping up. If we realize that there is a lot of demand because the value is so much higher than 1, maybe we should start raising our price, which is the cost to the customer, until we get to the point where it becomes 1. But the other thing that happens much more often is that people get used
to the new value, and they commoditize it. And when they commoditize it, the way they look at value is they know that they're going to get this amount of value for this amount of cost for $1. Let's say that this amount of value for $1. And then over time, they're just going to see less value. They're going to get used to the value that they get to the point where it becomes 1. So over a sustainable market state, the value equals the cost. Because, go back to the first bullet, I value the product or services as much as I value my money. Does that make sense for everyone? If the cost decreases over time, then it will. Well, it's if the cost continues to decrease, then we're going to stay ahead. But until we cannot decrease the price anymore, at that point, once again, we get used to this is the value and it equals to the cost. Trevor, to your point on the competitive advantage, that's a transitional period. And when we get to the point where all of the competitors are inside the market, we may lower the cost, but the value gets commoditized, possibly even faster, until we get to the point of it's the same price. The price is equal the value. Okay, any questions about this area? Now, one thing you'll notice, or I'm telling you, I have, I believe, about 86 slides for today. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to skip a few of them, but I'm leaving them. They are in the presentation, so just keep in mind that you will have access to them if you downloaded the presentation. Okay, next, will they buy? So we're still in the area of the value over cost. So I want you to just keep this in mind. New value divided by new cost, 1 is that transition point. But if you translate it into the probability of buying or penetration or even market share, if there are competitors, if you're at 1, that's your maybe point. The higher you go here on new value divided by new cost, the higher the probability that you're going to make a sell. Now, if you're only at 1.1, your value is 10% higher. Don't confuse that with the performance is 10% higher. We had that question in the quiz. What's more important, 10% improvement in performance or 10x improvement in performance? The answer is it depends. Sometimes 10% increase in performance delivers more than, let me just move this here, delivers more than 10x improvement in other performance, the value. So for example, the example that we used, and some of you did quote that example, the boiling water. It's 200 degrees, waters don't boil. You cannot move a locomotive or an engine with it. At 212, you can. It's only a 6% increase, but that 6% increase makes a very big difference. Okay, so think about it this way. If you're above 1, this is the higher you are above 1, not in performance, in value. The higher you are above 1, then the higher the probability that they're going to buy, that the penetration of the market of this new category is going to be, and the market share. Lower than 1, why would anybody buy? Okay, I'll move on. We had this issue of big fish in small market or small pond. I want to slightly revise this. And the way I want to revise it is a winning strategy is to be a big fish. I don't want to call it a small pond anymore, and you'll see why I mean this. What do I mean, and why did I say small pond? You want to be a big fish in a market segment that has the size that your company can penetrate and serve 100% of it. I'll show you something in the next slide, a few pictures. When you are a startup, that's a small pond. I don't remember his name anymore, and I used to have a picture of his book, but he used to be the vice president of marketing for Intel Corporation, and he wrote a book called Marketing for High Technology Companies. And what he said was that if you want to enter a market where competitors have already established themselves, it's going to cost you 70% of the revenue that the number 1 in this market is making to enter this market and be considered. Now the question is, how big is the market that a startup can go into? And the answer is a small pond. If you're a mid-sized company, you want to be a big fish in a mid-sized pond. If you're a very large company, if you are a Microsoft, an Intel, a 3M, a Walmart, if you are large, you want to be a big fish in a large pond. What's the common thing to all three strategies? What is common to all three strategies? Big fish, exactly, Lise. You want to be a big fish. The size of the market is the size of the market that you can handle. You need to make sure that this is a market size where you can serve 100% of it. What determines the size of the market is the unique fit between your unique differentiation and unique customer needs and characteristics. As your company grows, the market that you're in gets smaller. This is when you want to start addressing a more generic customer base with more generic offering. Will the large company that's addressing the large, more generic market be interested in acquiring you maybe? They might. If you can serve a part of the market, so let's take a Microsoft, and Microsoft serves a market with 1 billion customers. You have something in a market that is the size of 10 million. Okay, it's 1% of the market size that Microsoft addresses. Microsoft got to the point where there is no bigger market. So for them, a winning strategy is, what are the small segments in the market that we're not addressing well? And you have one of them, you have 1%, maybe acquiring you is their strategy. And when we talk about exit strategy, that would be something to keep in mind. Here are the pictures I wanted to show you. I was facilitating strategy development for a technology company, a public company. These are pictures from the offsite that we had. And there is one flip chart that I wanted you to see. And this is something that we agreed. When we said markets that we like, the market segment size, given the size of the company that we were, had to have been between $200 and $500 million. Those were the segments. We were defining what are the characteristics of the market segments that we care about. And look at, it's not just that we said the minimum size is going to be 200 million. We actually put a maximum size. We actually limited the size of that pond. Okay, any question so far? Is everything clear? Just say something or give me a thumbs up. Lise gave me a thumbs up, and since Lise gave me a thumbs up, you know, when I asked you at the quiz, I asked you the questions, and some of you went in great detail, and it was great. I think that, does anybody know where this is coming from? You had me at hello? Yes, where is it? No, Trevor? What's the name of the movie? Come on, who knows what the movie was? This is Renee Zellweger, and I say it a lot, but no idea where it originated. Okay, what was the name of the movie? Come on, somebody help me. Jerry Maguire, and the person standing in front of Renee Zellweger was Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise came in and he decided to win her, and he said hello, and then he gave a long list of why she needs to be with him, and she said, "Shut up, you had me at hello." So the "You Had Me at Hello" award goes to Lise, because Lise answered the quiz with just the answer that was needed. That was it. Nothing beyond that, but she gave, in I think almost all of the questions, she gave exactly the answer and not a lot beyond that. So, you know, sometimes you elaborate more and it's great. Sometimes you elaborate more and you kind of kill something that you said at the beginning. So, you know what, Lise, I'm with you. You had me at hello. You had me at the first line. The first line was the answer to the quiz. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the financial plan. Now, I tried to do something different this class than previous classes, and I looked for tools. I looked for models, preferably spreadsheets for financial models, specifically for startups. And every model that I found I did not like, so I spent pretty much all of Saturday creating this model. This model is in the files section. You will see that. You can see the name at the top. It's called CISB 6222 Financial Projections Model. It is the second version. This is the final version that I created. And what I'm going to do, actually, I see that I even added a few more things that are not in this picture, but they are in the model that you will download. Later, when we get to the financial modeling, I'm going to take you through this model. And this model would help shortcut the time that it will take you to create a financial model. Okay. We already did student evaluation. Why do I have student evaluation twice? Okay. In general, remember that the business model starts something like this. In general, very, very high level. And at the very high level, this is what the customers or consumers pay. This is not necessarily what we make. This is what the retailers, distributors make. This is the revenue. This is what we call factory revenue. This is how much we make. Now, in this case, in this example, what is the channel margin? Quite a few of you got that one wrong. What is the channel margin? Answering the chat box. The channel margin in this, 60%. Who thinks it's different? 75, Rashmi, very good. It's 75%. The channel margin is what gets lost between what the customers pay and what we get. Which line do we care about in our own financials? The customers, what the customers pay, or the revenue that we make? Which one do we care about the most? The revenue that we make, exactly. The revenue, after the revenue, we have the cost, really the cost of goods sold. So this is how much we spend to generate 20,000. We get a gross profit of $8,000, which is 40% of 20,000 of our revenue. This is, we don't look at what the customers paid anymore. We only look at our own revenue. 8,000. Operating expenses, what we spend internally in the company, 2,000. We got $6,000 net profit. Maybe it's $6 million, maybe it's $6 billion. Not for a startup. It's not going to be $6 billion for a startup. And then we get 30% net profit margin. This is a very simplistic model. It does not have a lot of detail. It's not enough for an investor. And it only has 1 year here. We typically in business plans, at the absolute minimum, would look at 3 years. Absolute minimum. And typically, if you show investors, even at an early stage, 3-year revenue, it doesn't even work well for you to show 3 years revenue because it takes you time to break even. So why would you want to know? Why would you want to show them the 3 worst years? If year 4 is going to be better and year 5 is going to be better, because you're going to be selling more, because your bottom up sales strategy is going to work, and every single customer is going to give you a few more and a few more and a few more. Plus, your expenses are going to start going down relative to your revenue and more things. Now, then there is a model like this. This is one of the models that I thought about bringing. This model, who thinks that this model is too expensive? Not too expensive, too complicated. Raise your hand if you think it's too complicated. Stephanie, it's too complicated. Actually, not so much. But for a 7-page business plan, it is. This would be something that can be at this level of detail, be in your exhibit, in your appendixes. But I'm not going to ask you to put something like this. This is a real one that I created back in, I believe, 2005 when I started the USB 3 project, which I believe I told you about. This is one of the pages. Yeah, it was 2005. This is one of the pages. I want you to see this number here. $533,000, right? No, this is actually in thousands. This was a $533 million business plan. You can see the level of detail. There are a lot of tabs that hold the different parts, the different elements. This is really just the bottom line final spreadsheet. But instead of that, what we're going to do is start talking about the different parts of the business plan. So first of all, I want you to know that there are we refer to three types of years in a business plan. Actuals is a year that has already happened. So if our business plan starts with what happened in 2018, if it happened in 2018, we probably already filed our taxes and the financial reports were already audited. So we can say that these are actuals. Those numbers have already happened, and we are certain. Sometimes even actuals get revised later. If something happened and we found an error or anything else. But for the most part, actuals, we take them for granted. Estimated is what we expect the current year to end, because part of it is already behind us, so we refer to it as an estimate. Projected is things that haven't happened yet, things that are going to happen in future years. For you, in startups, for the most part, all of your years are going to be projected. However, not necessarily. You may have already started your startup, you may have already generated revenue, and if you have, then you may have an estimated year and then projected years. You may even have an actual year, an estimated year, and projected years. But for the most part, most startups really present the business plan before they really started generating revenue, which means all of the years are going to be projected. Okay? If there are any questions, I'm not going to stop all the time and ask if there are questions. Just post them in the chat and I will stop. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on going. Let's talk about the cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold are per unit, per every unit. They can decrease as volume goes up with the experience or learning curve, which is something I'll talk about in a second, with economies of scale, and it's not growing or declining in a linear way. It may even start higher than the price, especially if the cost may start higher than the price. If this is introductory cost, and you know that you're going to be charging less than it costs you to make that, if it's predatory prices, if you are intent on getting into the market and really take out another competitor from this market, then it's predatory. And as long as there is a cost reduction plan, because this is not sustainable. You cannot sustainable, and we talked about that. Maybe it is a loss leader for you and it compensates for other products. It may start higher than the price. The focus, the cost of goods sold is the focus of cost reduction. Cost reductions are not typically the reduction in forces that reduce the expenses. That would be expense reduction. Cost reduction has the focus of lowering the cost of units. Any third party that needs to be paid, maybe there is someone along the way that you are using to deliver your product. That may be the target of cost reduction and part of cost of goods sold. It may include the channel margin if the channel is not passed through. And I want to just explain what this means. In some cases, and I'm actually going to add the next bullet because that would explain it. In some cases, if you think about the distributor or retailer may be selling to the customer. So they're selling for $80, they're collecting $20, they're paying you $60. Channel margin was 25%, $20 divided by $80. However, the case might be that they introduce you to the customer and they take a commission for that. So they connected, and this is especially true when you're talking about very large sales, very large equipment, or take, for example, the selling of a house. The real estate agent is not buying the house from someone, from you, and selling it to someone else, right? The real estate agent introduces you to someone else and takes 3%, or there is a total of 6% between the two real estate agents that are involved. So the cost is your 6%, but the channel margin is 0 because you end up selling directly to the customer. Was that clear? Did I manage to confuse you, or are we good? Not seeing anything. I'm assuming that we're good. In other cases, I said sometimes sales. Sometimes you would actually allocate to the sales department to the cost of goods sold, because there's direct correlation between the two. Any expense that marginally grows with one more unit sold is called cost of goods sold. Okay, I mentioned experience curve, so let me show you what an experience curve looks like. This is one example. This is taken from the Boston Consulting Group, and I put the link here. And the Boston Consulting Group were really the ones that established the learning or experience curve formula in general context. I think that I mentioned it to you when I built my first bookshelf here. It took me about an hour. The second one took about 45 minutes. The third one took about 35 minutes, and so on until I got to the 10th one, which took 20 minutes. If I allocated money to my time working and building them, and let's say that I allocated $100 an hour for me building it, then the first one had cost $100 in cost of goods sold. The second one had cost $75 because it took 45 minutes. The third one, about $58, and so on and so forth. So the cost gets reduced as we produce more and more and more. Another element that you may have heard of is economies of scale. These are electronic production equipment. This is a tabletop. It's called an SMT machine, surface mount technology machine. It puts components on board. So is this one. This one is much more expensive than this one, but the quantity, the volume that this can generate, if we take the cost of this machine and we divide it by the number of boards that it builds, or even the time that it takes to build a board, this one ends up being cheaper. Why wouldn't you buy this one at the beginning? Because if you don't build enough, then you cannot justify this kind of equipment. But the more you build, the more you produce, the more you sell, you may start using, whether it's equipment or anything else. Think about deliveries, okay? Let's say that you are doing food deliveries. Let's say that you're getting 4 calls an evening. Would you rather buy for your company a smart car or a large truck? What would you buy? Smart car. Smart car. However, when you get to the point of delivering 1,000 meals every night, would you just continue and buy smart cars or start buying trucks instead? You're going to do trucks. Why? Because the cost of the truck, even operate smart trucks, Jacob, even the cost of operating a truck and the cost of the truck itself, when it's divided by how much it can deliver in one night, it's actually cheaper per unit. That's economies of scale. Okay, operating expenses. There are 3 main categories: research and development. This is the initial development to deliver a product. Marketing and sales. Again, I'm going to make that distinction. Sales may actually be part of the cost of goods sold and not necessarily operating expenses. But in many cases, at least the head of the sales department and people who are allocated to the sales department but not to specific sales would still fit under that line, marketing and sales. General and administrative, that would be the executive team, headquarters, and so on. Sometimes there are only two categories. You will see business plans that have R&D, research and development, and then SG&A, sales, general, and administrative. Now, is there anything here that's missing? Anything here that you feel is missing? Let's say that you're building a product, okay? You're actually building a product. Marketing? No, marketing is marketing and sales, S&M. Rent would be in general and administrative. You're building a product and you're selling it. What's missing here? Materials. No, cost of goods sold are not, and materials are not part of operating expenses. Manufacturing div, very good. Manufacturing is missing. Manufacturing goes to cost of goods sold. Salaries, Lise, you wrote salaries. There are salaries in research and development. Those are the research and development personnel. Marketing and sales personnel are in sales and marketing. General and administrative are in general and administrative, as well as rent. So those are all allocated there. And in fact, in many, many organizations, the number one expense is actually salaries. Okay. Typically, in a startup, the operating expenses start higher or even much higher than the revenue. Why is that? Why does it start higher than the revenue? You have to produce before you can sell. Remember that production is cost of goods sold, so it's not operating expenses. Lots of R&D, Trevor. Very, very true. Lots of R&D. Experience curve. Experience curve reflects on the cost of goods sold, not on operating expenses. Lots of R&D. You have a lot of people working, and you still have no revenue. That is why it is much higher than revenue. Revenue does not start the day you start the company. Revenue starts the moment you have a product or a service to sell, and that typically does not exist on day one. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to break down. Research and development has people, lease, those are the salaries, equipment, facilities, utilities, licenses, and other thing. When I say licenses, sometimes you need a license to use somebody's software or whatever in your research and development. This is what research and development will include. Sales and marketing, what do we have there? We have salespeople and marketing people. Lease, back to you. Salary, that's salaries. Market research, maybe we need to hire another organization to do market research. Travel is part of sales and marketing, and that's an expense. Samples, we need to sometimes provide samples to our customers. And when we provide samples, those cost us money, but we don't ask for any money. I remember once reading that when you want to sell books, for every one book you give for free, you sell 5. So you have to assume that you're going to give one, and that person who got that one may tell 5 people, or may tell more than 5 people, but as a result, 5 people will buy it. I don't know that I see exactly this ratio with my books. In some cases, I see more. In some cases, I see less. Advertising. Here's your $2,000, $2,500 on Facebook ads that we have no idea how much they're going to generate in revenue eventually, and we need to know. But that's the cost of sales and marketing. Any other things? I'll move on. General and administrative. We have finance and accounting departments or outsource. Human resources department. They don't generate revenue, but they're not cost of goods sold because we don't change the size of those departments based on how many products we sold. Administrative assistants, utilities, the executive and the CEO, the headquarters, anything really that does not fit research and development or sales and marketing, Because really, in operating expenses, we try to categorize everything into those three major categories. Now, once your company starts growing, even when it's small, you're going to see that under those categories, you're going to have a few subcategories like salaries, like equipment, like other things. But the bigger the company is, the more complex the operation is, you're going to get a long list of items. But overall, they map, even with large companies, very large companies, they map into those three categories: research and development, sales and marketing, general and administrative. And in some cases, you're going to see just two: research and development, sales, general and administrative. And sales includes marketing. Okay. Now, those are operating expenses. Here are operating expenses that investors don't like. You're trying to attract investors. Now, you may have left a company where you were making a salary of $200,000 a year. If you put yourself in the business plan as somebody who's going to take $200,000 a year in the first year of a startup, investors are not going to invest. They don't like the salespeople taking very, very high commissions. There are commissions that are reasonable, and they're typically in the 0.5%, 1% to 3% commission, and they vary with different markets. Sometimes you might see more. I've seen business plans where the salesperson said, I actually sat through an investment meeting. We were doing due diligence. I looked at the Excel spreadsheets, and all of a sudden, the thing that hit me was that the salesperson, there were only two people running the startup at that time. The salesperson was planning on getting 20% commission. The funny thing is, as the business was growing, he was starting to show that he would be getting $1, $2, $2.5 million a year in commissions. Now, you may say, hey, if he's generating $10 million, let him take $2 million, right? No, that is not competitive. So salespeople taking too high commissions, founders and owners actually taking salaries at all early on. So they expect you to work essentially for free, at least in the first year or so of the company, until you start generating revenue. Too much product development beyond the MVP. I've seen business plans where they had millions of dollars invested in product development before an MVP goes out. You do not want to do that. Remember that you want to learn. You want to have this learning curve and make as little investment as possible until you validated your MVP. They don't want to see expensive market reports either. You already found data on your markets, and I'm guessing you have not spent any money. Anybody here in this class has actually spent money to get market data for your products? Yes, no? Abram, you look different. Okay. Expensive and eye-popping facilities. How much money do you want to spend in having high-end facilities, having very expensive furniture and all? Not early on. Maybe when you're starting to make a lot of money and the company is very profitable. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time showing you what this looks like, but this is a very high level of, you have year one. Now, you don't write year one, year two, year three. You actually write the year name. So this might be 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, 24. Your revenue. Is your revenue what the customer pays? That's a question. Is your revenue what the customers pay? No. No. Minus retails and distribution. In other words, your revenue is what the customer pays if there is no channel margin. Very good, Rashmi. It's what's left after the channel margin are paid. And if there is no channel margin, then the revenue is the same line. Cost of goods sold, how much did it cost to produce the products or services that generated $1 million? Note this thing. If you built 2 million units, let's say that we're building units that are $1, that you sell for $1. If they cost you 25 cents and you built 1 million units, then you spent 250,000 and you generate $1 million. However, if you built 2 million units and sold 1 million units, are you going to put 500,000 here because you built 2 million at 25 cents? Or are you going to put 250,000 because you only sold 1 million? Haha, you didn't expect that question. 250, Trevor. Trevor, get yourself off of mute and explain that, please.
You only realize the COGS whenever you sell the items, right?
Perfect answer. You put in cost, how much did it cost to produce the number of units or number of services or whatever transactions that generated $1 million. If you built more, if you built 2 million units and you sold 1 million of them in the next year, the extra 250 is going to be here even though you generated them in year one. They would affect your cash flow, and you probably want to be pretty careful and not let something like this happen. Next line is your gross profit, which really is revenue minus cost. Operating expenses, 2 million. I'm going to break it out to you in the next slide. And the net profit here, we generated 1 million. Our cost was 250. We're left with 750. Our expenses are 2 million. We are actually losing $1.25 million. Year two, we are left with 1.5 million, but our operating expenses went up to 3 million. So we generated a loss of $1.5 million. Our total cash flow is now went from 1.25 plus 1.5. We're now at 2.75 minus. Then we generated $4 million in revenue, 3 in gross profit, 4 in operating expenses. We are losing 1 million. Add that to the 2.75. Now our cash flow is minus 3.75. Year four, finally, on 8 million, we generated 6 million in gross profit. Our operating expenses are 5 million. We're left with plus 1 million. Our cash flow is starting to improve. And on year five is the best year ever. You notice that we doubled our revenue every year. You notice that we actually doubled our cost. So our gross profit actually stayed 75% throughout our gross profit margin. Our operating expenses, though, did not grow as fast as revenue did, not like cost of goods sold. And therefore, we finally made a profit, a significant enough profit to compensate for the losses that we had, the cumulative loss. Now, if you had to raise an investment, how much money would you be asking for? How much money would you be asking for? Write it down in the chat box. Enough to make the COGS go down, a minimum of 10.5. Okay, Div, unmute yourself. Explain a minimum of 10.5 million.
So that's because of the cash flow cumulative. So after the first year, if we are on a negative 1.25, I just added all the negative cash flows. That
so
will add
you
up
added
to,
those 4?
Yes, and now which I'm thinking it's already cumulative, so you don't need to add cumulatives. Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, you said 18 million. Why 18 million?
So I'm thinking that if we are using, let's say, a multiple of 3, and then we use the trailing 12 months of 6 million, so 6 times 3 is 18, and we can use a market multiple on the trailing 12-month average. on the net profit.
Are you talking about the valuation or how much investment do we need?
Oh, so okay, sorry. I think I was
You
ahead
went to
then. Yes.
valuation. How
Yes.
much
Okay.
money would you raise for this startup? How much money are you going to? You have just presented, and the investor said, well, the investor may have said, you had me at hello, but they probably didn't. What they said was, you got me. I believe in your business. How much money do you need? What's your answer? Looking at this spreadsheet, what's your answer?
I
Alicia.
think about 10 million. Yeah.
Alicia, why 9.5 million?
You had a goal of your losses for the first 4 years.
Your losses in the first, actually, again, do not confuse yourself with the cumulative cash flow and net profit. You only lost 3.75. That's what you lost.
Oh, that's cumulative right there. I missed that.
2.75 plus 1 is 3.75, minus 1 is 2.75, and then we're going on. How much money do we need from the investors?
So will that be 3.75 at the minimum, so that even in the worst case scenario, we will be able to keep the company running?
If this would be an undergraduate class, I would say yes, 3.75. Since this is a graduate class, I'm sorry?
Discounted back to today.
Actually, no, not discounted back to today. I would do something else. What I would do is I would say I only need 1.25 in year one, because if I'm successful here, the value of the company may increase, and as a result, the investor is going to get less percentage for the next 1.5 that we're going to raise. If it was my company, I would probably not go exactly 1.25. I don't want to be there at at that line. I would probably ask for 2 million here in year one. Then in year two, I would ask for another 2 million, maybe even just 1 million, because I'm already going to be at 3, and another million here. And at that point, as the company generates more and more revenue, the valuation is going higher and higher, and the percentage I'm going to give the investors, and we'll talk about that when we get to talking about valuation. The next slide, I just wanted to break out what happens to different things. Why are we growing not just like revenue in our operating expenses? So for example, we have, we're starting with $1 million in research and development. Maybe we're introducing another product line, so we're starting to generate more, we're spending more money in research and development, but then we're getting to a pretty stable line. Our sales and marketing line actually does continue to grow, because to satisfy $8 million in revenue, it may take more marketing and salespeople and more sales and marketing efforts in general. General and administrative may grow. We may need a bigger building. We may need to hire human resources department, maybe hire more people, finance department, and so on. It's growing, but again, not growing as fast as your revenue or your cost of goods sold are growing. So this is kind of a breakdown of that. I'm going to skip this. This is just a different representation. And with that, what I'm going to do now is actually, I'm going to take you through the this tool. So I'm going to use this tool right in front of you so you'll get a sense of what it feels like. And then at the end tonight, you're going to be using this tool yourselves. Before I move on, any questions so far until now? Any questions? Let's see what time it is. It is 7:52. How about this? Since we're going to spend some time on this, it is 7:52:53. We're going to take a break until 8:05. Does that work for everyone? Div is already out. Yes. Okay. We're taking a break until 8:05. Be back by 8:05 because I'm going to start right then.
이게 원래 성향이잖아. 그리고 이게 바꿀 수가 없어. 왜냐면 내가 알기로는
Don't do that. Okay.
Okay, it is 8:05. Again, I'm going to ask all of you to show yourselves. Okay. Okay, we're going to dig into this financial model. What I want you to first know, and this is in the slides I sent you, I already transitioned to the Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just going to read from the slide on my right. The first step is you write your assumptions. You will see where we do that. Fill in the data input with all of your assumptions. This is going to be the biggest part of the work. Check the results. Determine the needed investment. Now, here's the deal. And we do that, and we do that a lot. We see what the results are. We don't like the results, we start messing with the numbers. If you don't like the results, your assumptions are not good assumptions. And they're not good, not because you said, the biggest assumptions, by the way, that are not going to be good are your penetration, market penetration, or market share. Don't go back and say, oh, then we're going to have higher penetration. You're going to fool yourselves and you're going to fool your investors. A good business plan, a solid business plan, is one where you really did realistic assumptions. You took realistic assumptions, you made realistic assumptions, and the numbers are good. If the numbers are not good, you need to take a good look at what you did. With that, let's just move on. What we have here is, this is our spreadsheet. There are tabs in the bottom. This is a spreadsheet that's available to you in the file section. The first tab is just the general instructions. I'm not going to take you through the instructions because I'm really explaining it to you as we go. The next tab is the assumptions tab, and you can see that it's empty. And the reason it's empty is because it's for you to fill in and write down. For example, a good price point is $20 in year one because the competition is taking $25, and we believe our value is 50% higher, so $20 seems right. This is how you write your assumptions. They're actually in text, and believe it or not, but this is the most important part of your business plan, the assumptions that you make. The next one is more interesting because here you actually do enter data. Now, what I did here is I protected this spreadsheet. So if you try and write something here, you will see that it says, I'm sorry, that you're trying to change an unprotected sheet. Only the orange sheet, the orange cells are cells that you can actually change. Now, if you do want to change them, once you download it, this is your spreadsheet. If you go to review, you can actually click on unprotect sheet, and then you can change anything. But keep in mind, you make the wrong changes, that's on you, not on me. So the reason I really protected everything except, see, not even this, can't change anything that is not orange. The reason I did that was really to protect you from making mistakes and change the wrong thing and change a formula, not knowing that it's a formula. So only what's in orange. So if your year one is 2018, you can see down here that 2018 and 2019 are actuals. 2020, the current year, is estimated. 2021 and 2022 are projected. So this is the reason why you're going to write what is your year one. So for example, we're going to say that year one is 2020. And as soon as you see that, you can see that 2020 is estimated. You know what? Let's make it 2021. The first year in business is really going to be next year. All the years are projected. You already have them here. Now, what units do we use to measure our total available market? Note one thing, and that is when you click here, you can actually say if those are units, or those are people, or those are glasses of drink, or those are subscriptions, or anything else. You need to write what those are. What is your multiplier? Am I going to write everything like total available market in thousands? Look at what happens here. You click down here, in units, in thousands, or in millions. Let's stick to thousands. This will appear in other places as well as in other tabs. What is the size of the total available market in year one? So we're estimating 1,000 thousands. okay, which means 1 million units. The total available market is 1 million units. The market size in year 5 is 5 million units. How is this growth? How is the penetration growth? And the thing about penetration growth, I'm sorry, this is actually a mistake. It shouldn't be penetration, it should be total available market. How is total available market growing? Told you, I only worked on it on Saturday. I did that Saturday. It's fresh and you're the first ones to use it. Is it exponential or is it linear? This is important because, and typically it will be exponential. If you said linear, I'm going to just for a second jump here and see what happens. You know what, let me first say data input is linear. If this is linear and there's 1,000 in year 1 and 5,000 in year 4, when we go to TAM, you will see that it's growing linearly from 1,000 to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000. But that's not very normal. That's not very natural. Natural is exponential, which if we go to TAM, by the way, you can see that there is not a single orange cell here, which means that this is output. This is not something that you enter. But look at what happens to TAM. TAM goes from, let me make it bigger. Is this better? Yes, yes, it's better. You tired? Me too, but we're gonna be fine. So look at what happens when it's exponential. You're going from 1,000 to 5,000, but really your growth is in percentage compared to the previous year, and this is a lot more common. Okay, oops, let's go back here. Good, this is good size. So it's exponential. What percentage of those will be willing to switch to the new product by year 5? Note that here I asked by year 5 first, and then by year 1. So we have a new category of a product. I'm not talking about we are being the only company that has this product. We're assuming that that 50% of the total available market will accept this product, this type of product on year 5, only 5% in year 1. We get automatically, it says that the penetration is increasing. If instead we went from 100% in year 1 to 50% in year 5, penetration is decreasing. Let's stick with 5% year 1. How is the penetration grow? Linearly or exponentially? Two option, default is exponential, and this is typically how we would expect penetration to be. How many direct competitors do we have in year 1 other than you, not including you? We're going to assume that we're going to be the big fish and we're starting with no competitors. In year 5, we may have 3 competitors. What happens here is this is our total available market. This is our penetration growing exponentially from 5% to 50%. This is the resulting serviceable available market. This is our market share. 0 competitors, we get 100%. 3 competitors, equal size, we assume that we get 25%. These are our revenue units in thousands. 50,000 units in year 1, 625 units in year 5. Now, I don't know why I lost the chat box. Are there any questions so far? Actually, I really did lose the chat box. I don't see it anywhere. So if somebody wants to ask a question, just unmute yourself and ask it. Are there any questions so far? No?
I have a question.
Yes, Dev, you had a question, and I think Trevor. Dev, you start.
Okay, so I was asking in the beginning of this, you said that if our assumptions are not really correct and our numbers are not worth showing it to the investors, what do we do? We can't, do we restart the whole process, or do we find a more favorable market study, or what do we do in that case?
Okay, you just said something that made me cringe. You said we're going to find a more favorable market study. Don't ever find a more favorable market study. That's called, there's a name for it. I forget the name. Don't look for a better market study for a market study that shows numbers that you like more. If the first market study was not credible, then it was not credible. If the first market study was credible, don't look for a less credible market study that would give you better numbers that you like. Your assumptions, there's something wrong with your assumptions. Don't mess with those numbers. Ask yourself, I mean, what you might be looking at is an unattractive business plan. That might be it. It's an unattractive business plan. So change something, change a lot of things, change the business. Don't change the number just to get the inputs, just to get outputs that you like.
Sure. Thank you.
One of my recommendations, by the way, is to really, and I know that it's going to be hard, and I can guarantee that you're not going to do that, is to never get out of data input into any of the other tabs before you feel really, really comfortable with the numbers here. This is your input. You may remember hearing me say at the beginning, garbage in, garbage out. This is your input. If your input is garbage, your output is garbage. Okay? So ask yourself 5 times, do I feel comfortable with these numbers, with what I entered here? Are they realistic? Are they overly conservative? Are they overly aggressive? Because the first thing that I would look at, if I'm looking at your business plan, is I'm looking at your numbers here. Okay, this is the first thing, this is the thing that I care about the most. Now, advice, I would recommend, it's up to you, I would recommend that you include these spreadsheets, including this data input, in your appendix. Okay? Okay, sure. Trevor, you had a question.
Yes, so would you like us to go, I have 2 questions on this. So would you like us to get rid of the old, the thing we did last week and replace like the TAM table and replace it with this? That's my first question.
Okay, let me answer your first question. No, I mean, your spreadsheet may have looked even better than this, but it had the same data in it.
Yeah, because ours was a little different in that it doesn't grow exponentially. We kind of did it a certain percentage year over year. So I didn't know if we needed to go in and make it exponential and change it to fit like that, or if we just leave it as is.
It's up to you. I want you to first feel comfortable with your financial model that's going to come out of this spreadsheet, and then decide how much do you want to revise everything that you had so far.
Okay. And then my second question, and this may just have been answered, but if we have 3 competitors, like you said here in year 5, do we have to assume that it's equal market share? Can we assume different market share since we created the market? So we probably will have a better following.
So what I would do here is, we can increase the level of complexity here exponentially. What I did was I said, you know what, 3 equal competitors. But if what you think is that your 3 equal competitors are not equal to you, but they're equal to themselves, and you're still going to keep 50% market share, then just write 1 competitor. Okay? If you put 1 competitor here, okay, then when we go to TAM, you're going to see that you get 50% market share.
Got it. Thank
you. Again, for the level of work that we're putting here in this business plan, this is a good enough granularity. Okay? These are the assumptions. These are the TAM assumptions. Okay? Let's go to revenue, cost, and gross margin. First question, what is the unit price in year 1? 25%. What percentage will the price change with every following year? So I'm really looking for 1, and again, it is kind of exponential. I'm looking for 1 number. You can say that it's minus 10%, which means that next year it's going to be 2250, 2025, 1823, and 1640. You may say that we expect the prices to go up 5%, which means that the prices are going to go from 25 to 30, 39. Typically, it's going to go down, so let's keep it at minus 10% here. I'm keeping it. You own your own numbers. The numbers, This is filled with numbers just so that you don't get a lot of error messages. But you have to own these numbers. You do not take my numbers. You don't get to take my numbers. Rashmi, did you want to ask something? Rashmi, if you're talking to me, then you're still muted. No, you were talking to somebody else. Okay, fair enough. So the next part is how much would it cost to produce a single unit in year one? We're estimating $10. Now, when I say a single unit, this might be a service that you're providing. How much is the cost of the service? How much does it cost? I'm sorry, what is the price of the service? How much does it cost to deliver it? How will the cost change every year? So notice that what I said here in this example is that the price is going to go down 10% every year. It's 10% relative to the year before. So if, for example, you look at here, you will see that we have this cell essentially minus 10%. So it's 10% compared to the year before. Cost, I'm assuming that we are going to be smarter on cost and we can reduce the cost even faster. How much would it cost to deliver a single unit? Is there any delivery associated with your business? Maybe there is no delivery. We can put it at 0 and it doesn't matter how it changes, but we're going to keep it on 5 and say we're actually delivering a good, and we estimate that the cost of delivery or shipping and handling is $5 and it reduces 8% every year. Any questions? Again, since I can't see the chat for some reason, unmute yourself and ask if there are any questions. I don't see any questions, so we're going to move on. Operational expenses. Ooh, here we're going to have to put some stuff here. So we're going to say how many people will work in research and development, and you'll see that what I put here on the default is that we're going to start with 5 people working on research and development, but once we have our product, we're going to decline to 3 and 2 and stay at 2 just to continue and make modifications. What is an average R&D salary? 100. Remember that we're doing everything in thousands because up here we selected thousands. Okay, so 100,000. 200,000 expenses overall for research and development. How many sales and marketing people will we have? This is growing more significantly. Again, these are your numbers. You have to own those numbers. You have to, at the end of the day, you have to enter a number for every orange box. You own putting numbers for every orange box. Do not use my numbers. Okay, is that clear? Give me a thumbs up if it's clear.
I've got a question, Professor.
Yes, Alicia.
Do we have to have R&D expenses?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Put everything in 0. This is why you have to put something in everything, and it can be 0. In which case, it doesn't matter how much. So, for example, let me skip to operating expenses. These are the operating expenses. Look at research and development. Let me make this bigger. Look at research and development, how it's going from 700 to 250,000, especially since we have fewer people. Now, if we go to data input and we just put 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, what happens to operating expenses? They just declined, not to 0. The reason it didn't go to 0 is because we still said that there are other expenses in this line. Okay? Alicia, yes? Thumbs up?
I get that. So there's no people that work in R&D, but so you're talking about there's still going to be an average R&D salary?
No. Oh, if you made these into 0, it really doesn't matter what you have here because you have 0 people. This one still matters because those are other expenses for R&D, but you may put 0 on all of them as well.
Okay.
Again, you have 16 different businesses here in this class, and you might have different things. Okay, everyone, again, turn on your cameras. I really don't like looking at gray boxes with names on them as opposed to seeing your faces. It gives me some visual feedback on, are you with me? Do you get what I'm saying? Okay? Thank you. Again, sales and marketing. What would the average salary be for sales and marketing? How many domestic trips would every salesperson have on average? What is the cost in thousands of dollars for a domestic trip? How many trips in a year will be international? What is the cost? And by the way, you can change those elements because other elements are more applicable to you if you feel the need. How many people in administration? What is the average administrative salary? What is the cost of the facilities? Whether you buy them or rent them, put it there. Are there any equipment for all the functions? Now, it is important that equipment is different because we will depreciate the equipment and not, if you spend $120,000 in equipment here and $120,000 in equipment here, but this equipment does not get depreciated in 1 year, then just write how long would it take for this equipment to depreciate, and only that part of 120,000, if we divide it by 5, only $24,000 would be depreciated in every year. So in this year, in year 1, we're going to depreciate 24,000 out of this one. In this year, we will depreciate 24,000 out of this one and 24,000 out of this one, and so on. Okay? And that's it. This is your input. As a result, let's take a look at what happened to the TAM. You already saw the TAM. You already saw these are the years. Since we're starting next year, everything is projected. The TAM is going from 1,000 units, 1,000 thousands, which is 1 million units, to 5 million units exponentially. Our penetration goes from 5% to 50% exponentially. You see how we're going from 5 to 9 to 16, 28, 50. Our SAM is really multiplication of TAM by penetration. Our market share is our own market share multiplied by the SAM. And what we get, this is the number of units that generate revenue. Let's go to the revenue tab. Our revenue tab shows the revenue units. This is exactly the same as here. Our revenue units. This is the unit price. This is the total revenue. Since it's 1,000, that means that we're going to be generating $1.25 million in year 1 and $10.25 million in year 5. Okay? This is reasonable for a startup. Remember something that I told you before, and that is if you're a startup, you're going to be generating, a good business plan will be generating between $1 and $10 million. And this is essentially what we're getting here. Any questions on this tab before we move on to gross profit?
Professor, I have a question
Yes,
in the
Dave.
previous tab in TAM.
Yes.
So in TAM, you said that there will be either a linear or a exponential, but there will be a growth. But if our customers, if our targeted customers are in such a way that it is a constant market, is that acceptable?
Let's go back here and say, what is the size of your market in year 1?
So if it is 1,000 and in year 5 also it is 1,000, so is that acceptable?
Let's look at our TAM. Our TAM stays
Okay.
flat.
Sure.
We still
So-
see
so we
growth
can do
here. We still see growth here because the penetration continues to grow,
Sure. Okay.
but our market share is declining. So you can see what's happening in year 5. Between year 4 and year 5, we're starting to stay a little flat.
Okay. Thank you.
Your market is your market. Okay? Anybody else has a question? No. Moving right along then. Let's go to gross profit. Our gross profit projections. This is our revenue taken from the previous tab. Our cost of goods sold, since we entered the cost and the change here, then this number gets multiplied by the number of units, and we get our cost of goods sold. We get our gross profit margin, and we get our gross profit, and then we get our gross margin. Notice that our gross margin is improving. Anybody can tell me why is it improving? over time? Why do you think our gross margin is improving?
Economies of scale.
Economies of scale. This could be the reason, but really what it is because the growth in price, or the decline in price, I should say the decline in unit cost is faster than the decline in the price. That's why. Okay? Yes, okay. Operating expenses. We actually looked at it for a second. This is a summary of all of the expenses, all of the numbers that you entered for research and development. These are the 3 research and development lines. Okay, these 3 lines. Those 3 lines, 5 times 100,000 salary, that's 500,000 plus 200,000. If we go back to operating expenses, guess what? It's $700,000. Research and development is declining because we're going to have fewer people and we're going to need fewer equipment and other things. Sales and marketing is growing. That's only natural because we're selling more. And if we're selling more, then we expect to have more sales and marketing expenses. General and administrative is growing. The company is growing. Capital depreciation. You remember what I told you. Year 1, we're depreciating the first piece of equipment, 1/5 of it. Year 2, we have the second year of depreciation for this equipment and the first year of depreciation for this one, and so on and so forth. What you see in operating expenses is the capital depreciation. This is your total operating expenses. Are you ready? Are you ready for the bottom line? Say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Ready for the bottom line. P&L, this is our profit and loss projections. These are our profit and loss projections. Here's what we see here. This is our revenue. It comes from the revenue tab. Cost, it's coming from the gross profit tab. Gross profit coming from the gross profit tab. Gross margin going from 40% to 42%. Operating expenses actually broken down, but all of these add up to this number here, to this line here. These are your total operating expenses. They were actually here as well. This is the same line. Operating expenses. And this is our net profit. Can somebody tell me the story of this net profit? And by the way, we divide this number by the total revenue, and what we can see is an increase in our net profit margin. Can anybody tell me the story of our net profit? What's happening here? Come on. Rashmi, you want to take a stab at this? Tell me the story.
I can say profits are increasing with respect to revenue. So we are becoming more efficient over time.
Okay, that was Prakshi, not Rashmi.
Yeah.
But you said profits are increasing. What can you tell me about the first 2 years?
Yeah, exactly. But
yes,
over
exactly.
time, because we were talking about net profit margin. So from what I can see that initially it's negative, but over time it's increasing and becoming more positive. So because net profit margin relates profit with revenue. So my assumption here, my understanding here is that we are becoming more efficient in reducing cost and making the product more profitable over time. Like with respect to revenue, our profits are increasing.
Okay. You said make the product more profitable. I want to tell you that this is the profitability of the product. This is the profitability of the company. The profitability of the product is improving, but very marginally. This does not have that impact on the bottom line. Somebody else jump in.
I think our R&D is decreasing year over year. So that's probably contributing to the increase in the net profits.
The R&D is increasing?
Is decreasing.
Decreasing, okay. In fact, our operating expenses are decreasing. The first line of the story that I wanted to hear from you is we're losing money in year 1, we're losing money in year 2. This break-even thing, that actually is automatic. I put there is a formula there that says this is the first year we're actually making money. So we're going from 2 years of losing money to 3 years of making money. And it's growing. So actually, we're talking more than growing profitability. We're talking about getting out of losing money, because the first 2 years we're losing money. Now, if this was your company and I was your investor, how much money are you trying to raise? How much money are you going to ask for? Who wants to take a shot?
670 million.
How much?
670 million.
Anybody else? Another answer.
Minimum of 666,000, but keeping a buffer of like 750,000 seems like a round number.
So if you raised 670,000 here, or let's say 666, which is really a terrible number, but if you
I meant
raise
to say thousand, sorry.
the what?
I meant to say thousands, not million.
No, that's fine. 666,000. If you raise 666,000, is this enough? Anybody else? This would not be the number that I would raise if this was my company. What would be another number?
I forget, you can't see the chat. It's $1 million.
Who said $1 million?
Alicia.
Alicia, why would you raise $1 million?
Because that gives you the 766,000 that you need for the first 2 years, plus any extra in case you're not anticipating anything or in case you get any surprises.
So, you suggested 666 because I told you in the example I gave you before, I said I would not raise everything that I need. But here's the thing. In year one, I need just about 700. Let's make it 700. What if I have a surprise in year one? We're not generating $1.25 million. We're generating less than that. $670,000 may not be enough. There is so much that I can do with compensating for the expenses and cutting the expenses down. But let's say that we wanted to go on the dot, Div, like you wanted to do that. On the dot, 670,000. How much do I need to cover both years and not have to go out for money on year two? It's instead of 670, it's 770. It's not that big a deal, but the ability to eliminate the needs to raise money the year two, to go immediately year two and start raising money and start showing business plans and so on, that has value by itself. So Alicia, I'm with you. I would have raised $1 million. Let's go to the next one.
I have a question in this.
I'm sorry?
I have a question in that how much money we'll raise. So you said if we raise a 1 million, that would be enough for the first 2 years, but the operating expense of first year itself is 1.16 million.
Right, but we're assuming that you're generating sales and you're generating a positive gross profit. So this gross profit helps you too.
Okay, sure.
If you think that you're going to generate zero, and I'm going to go back and say, if you think that you're going to generate zero revenue in year one, that's something that you need to correct. You may need to say, here, I'm going to make zero. Okay? Sure. And if you're going to make zero here, first of all, you're going to have zero gross profit. Your expenses are going to be let's say $1.2 million. So yes, I would raise $1.2 million. And if you don't think that if you don't feel safe enough in generating revenue in year two, then maybe you need to get $2.2 million, to raise $2.2 million. But we're assuming in this model that you actually are generating revenue in year one and year two. If you don't think that that's the case for you, you have to correct it as well. Okay? Okay. Let's move on to cash flow. And on cash flow, we actually get our investor in. And we are actually going to let's start with zero investment. We're not taking any investment. Our starting cash balance we're starting with zero, and this is up to you. You may say, hey, wait. I'm coming in with my own money. I'm going to put 200,000 of my own money. This is my starting point. I don't even need 666,000 in year one because I only need less than $500,000 because I actually put 200,000 of my own money. Okay? And therefore, this is what the starting cash balance is going to be for every year. And this is what the cash from operation is going to be. Okay? Cash at the end of the year is less. Well, I may take 200,000, but then decide, you know what? When I look at this, maybe what I take from investors is going to be 750,000. Now, at the end of every year, I have positive cash. Does that make sense for everyone? I'm going to put some of my own money in year one, and I'm going to raise this amount of investment. You have to make your own decision. But if I don't raise any investment, Houston, we've got a problem. We have a problem here, right? We cannot be losing money. So we're going to be taking, let's say in this case, I've put 200,000, 750 I raised as an investment. Maybe I even decided, you know what? I don't need 750. See how I only need 666. So Dev, like you said, let's just take 500 in year one, which means that I probably need to take another 100 in year two. Okay? Or maybe 200. My personal preference is going to be, you know what? It's taking 470,000 in year one, another 100,000 for year two. I'm just going to take 750,000 in year one as investment, my first investment. Any questions? I'm going to show you this, even though I'm going to talk about it a little later, but let's talk about valuation. This is the value of the company. There are different methods to value the company. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one method is to actually say net present value or discounted cash flow, okay? This is our cash flow from operations, or in other words, net profit. And what I do is I discount it to today. Here I use 20%. 20% is safe. If you're going to say, hey, you know what? We believe that it's really, oops. Ooh, I did not even, okay. Now you can see how I can unprotect it. First of all, I would go to review, unprotect the sheet. I'm going to take this and here in home, under alignment, protection, I'm going to unlock this protection, unlock. Now I'm going to go back to review and protect the sheet. And now we're back to, I can change this. So let's say that we're saying, you know what, it's only going to be 4%. Look at what happened to the net present value. We went from 1.2 million to 2.7 million. The company is more valuable. And if we are raising, if we are raising 750, which is what we just said before, we're going to need to give the investor 22% of the company. I'm going to go through this in a little more detail in another slide, but I just wanted to show you how those things are all connected. So far, so good. I'm not going to spend time on this, but I took this whole value divided by cost formula and created a spreadsheet for that. Again, I'm not going to go over it. I just want you to know that it's here because this spreadsheet stays with you for future ventures that you may enter. This would be a good way for you to do the value formula. As I said, I'm not going there. One more tab. This is just a scratch pad for you, a place to just write things. Are there any questions before I move on? Any questions? Let me move you on the screen for just 1 second. And check something on Canvas. Okay, That just disappeared. Canvas is not being very cooperative. Okay, we are good. Okay, that file is there. Okay, I didn't hear any questions, so I'm going to go back to the presentation itself. In fact, I think I'm going to do it a little differently. Let me first remove this. Now I can see the presentation myself. And what I don't see anymore, oh, I needed to first stop sharing and share presentation. Can you see the slides now? It looks the same. Okay, let's see if somehow I can get the chat back. Yes, I got the chat back. I can see your messages on chat now. Okay, I already took you through this one. Let's talk about valuation. You know, before we talk about valuation, I just remembered that there was a topic that I wanted to bring up, and that's choosing your partner. I'm going to go very briefly. This is probably the most important decisions that you're going to make that will make or break your company. And that is, who do you choose as a partner? Can't tell you how many horror stories I read about this, and I can even tell you that I'm going to write a book on this in the near future about choosing a partner. When you choose a partner, here are the questions you need to ask yourselves. How long do I know them? Is there an alignment of interests between us? How competent are they in what their part in the company is going to be? Maybe your partner needs to be the one who sells. Are they a good salesperson? Maybe they need to be the developers. Are they a top-notch developer that can develop the technology we need to develop? Alignment of values. Alignment of values is different than alignment of interest. Alignment of interest is we're trying to get the same thing. Alignment of values is we're doing it for the same reasons. Symmetry of the commitment. One of the biggest elements that breaks partnerships with your partners. Robin, you're smiling. There is a story there. You're muted. I can't.
Sorry, my dog's behind me over there. He's being
That's
funny.
why you're smiling. I thought you're smiling because there is a story that you wanted to share.
No, she's just being crazy. Thanks.
Okay. So the symmetry of commitment, think about financials. You know what? I can tell you that sometimes you're going to say, I have $50,000 to put in our company. Your partner says, I don't have any money to put in there. And you're going to say, that's fine. We're going to get over it. I can tell you that that asymmetry is going to hurt you later. The amount of time. You may say, look, I want to work full time here. And your partner is going to say, I need to, you know, provide for my family. I can't work full time. I have to keep a full-time job. That may break your company. You may feel initially that this asymmetry is okay. You're going to end up with it's not being okay. Effort. Maybe you both work full-time on this, but you work nonstop, you work nights, and you work weekends. Your partner is not. That asymmetry is going to break you apart. It all really boils down to one thing, and that is the level of trust that you have in one another. This is why I'm going to be writing a book about this, because it's going to be tips on how to select a trustworthy partner. But I know it's a slight digression, but remember that my goal here is to prepare you to start your own businesses. And you have no idea how important this is. Just trust me on that. It's really important. Let's move on. Let's talk about the presentation that you're going to present. And again, I'm going to go back to that later. But there is a book that I really strongly recommend. It's called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. If this is not a book that you read, this is going to be a great book for you to know how to build your website, know how to write emails to customers, know how to present your story. And really talks about everything in life is a story. People want to to hear stories. They need to be the heroes of the stories. They have a problem. You are not the hero. You are the guide that has a plan with an action, call to action that would take them through success and transform probably their financial results, their lives, their happiness, whatever it is. Not going to dig deep into that, but a very successful presentation will follow those guidelines. Valuations. I talked about valuation. How much is my company worth? The first way is to really look at the balance sheet. Look at the net present value. But you can look at capabilities, competitive advantage, and the exit that you would expect and when. And what is the return on investment that investors will get from that exit. The first one is the balance sheet. So this is what we call a book value. If you have done financial classes, if you took financial classes, you know that in a balance sheet you have the assets, what the current company currently has as tangible assets. You have your liabilities, how much does the company owe? And you take the assets minus the liabilities, what you get is shareholder equity. This is theoretically what the company is worth. If we look at net present value, I gave you here 3 options to look at valuation on year 5. I'm sorry, is it year 5? No. I looked at year 1. I'm sorry. At least year 1, if we value the company as, one example would be 1.5 times revenue, which is one way to look at it. There are many ways. Then your company is worth $1.5 million. If we look at 10 times profit, which is another way to look at it, in year 1, we got 0. You can't, I mean, you're losing money in year 1. If you take the discounted cash flow or net present value of all of this, then you would get about $2 million. This is a 20% discount rate. But this is essentially looking at only the tangible results. However, you may have intangible results such as capabilities. Maybe the team that you have has uniqueness of skills. There was a company called Envara that I believe in 2003 or 2003 was acquired by Intel. They were acquired and immediately everything that they worked on was put aside and they started working on something else. The reason for that was because Intel needed the skill set that this group had. The completeness of a team. There are times when it is really hard to build a team. So imagine you have unique skills. You have a team that's already complete. Teamwork is already in place. It's not like you're hiring 5 people. They're already in place. Regardless of your current product or service, it saves you time. It saves you money in putting a team in place. You acquire a company, and that happens multiple times when a larger company acquires a smaller company, not for the products, not for the expectation of revenue and profit, but really just to have access to the skills in that team. Then you look at the company, at the valuation of the company as dollars per person. The company that I sold in 2000, essentially, they acquired this. They did not care for our financial projections. All they cared about was it was a team that had the right skill set, worked together as a team, was capable of entering a new market that that company wanted to enter very quickly. And they estimated the company pretty much at $3 million per person. Intangibles can be the competitive advantage, the value of the patents that you have in blocking the large companies' competitors, royalties and licenses that you can generate, cross-licensing if the acquiring company needs, and the company that I sold my little startup to made another acquisition that same year, 2000, What they acquired is a company that had a lot of patents, and they really needed them for cross-licensing against their competitors. And we talked about cross-licensing when we talked about intellectual property and patents specifically. They may acquire them for the customer base. There is value in the customer base. The example that I gave you in the past when I talked about the company called Mirabilis with the product called ICQ, which was the first instant messenger for a computer, they had zero revenue. They had zero plans for revenue. Obviously, they had zero plans for profit. In fact, they had good plans for losing money for the next 5 years because there was no way to generate revenue. However, they had 12 million subscribers to their service. And America Online paid $477 million for those 12 million subscribers. Two other terms, pre-money and post-money. The valuation of the company is the valuation, the pre-money valuation, which is what the company is worth before you take money from the investors, plus the investment that they make. You get the post-money valuation. If the company had $3 million, if we manage to convince someone that the company is worth, let's say here, based on discounted cash flow or net present value, $2 million, let's say that it's $3 million. If we manage to convince the investors that the company is worth $3 million before we take their money, and we take $1 million from them, then after the investment, the company is now worth $4 million. 3 before, plus $1 million in cash. Is that clear for everyone? Give me a thumbs up if it is. Thumbs down if it's not. Or 2 thumbs up, Alicia, thank you. Opposed. Equity, what do you give the investor? I mean, the investor is not giving you this out of the goodness of their heart. They're giving you this money to get a percentage of this company. How much do you give them? The amount they invested divided by the value of the company after they invested it. So in this case, 3 million pre, 1 million investment, total of 4. 1 million gives you 25% of the company. Is that clear? I know I'm going quick. I know it's late. We're getting to the end. I told you that I have a few things that I'm just going to skip. I don't want to spend too much time on the investment process. I want you to work in your teams. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to ask you a question here. What is common? I know you're looking at this slide and you're thinking, what is he trying to say here? What is common to finding a new job, getting an investment for a startup, or going to the restroom during flight? It can be rocky, Matthew. It's scary. Yeah, those uncertain. What is Dave? What is so uncertain in going to the restroom during flight?
I don't know. But for the other two, there's uncertainty.
Rashmi, you are the closest one. Here is what's common to those three: finding a new job, raising an investment, going to the restroom during flight. You do that when you can, not when you have to. All three of them you do when you can, not when you have to. Here's the story. My older daughter, I think she was about 3-4 years old. We flew into Washington, D.C. If you ever flew into Washington, D.C. post 9/11, then you know that the last 30 minutes, you have to keep your seatbelts on. They don't want anybody to try and go anywhere near the cockpit for the last 30 minutes. So we split. My wife was sitting with my younger daughter. I was sitting with my older daughter. And I kept asking her, Maya, do you need to go to the restroom? And she said, no, Daddy, I don't. A few minutes later, Maya, do you need to go to the restroom? She said, no, Daddy, I don't. 30 minutes before landing, they turned off the fasten seatbelt sign and they said, this is it. No more standing up. Maya turns to me and says, can anyone complete the sentence? What does she say? You're smiling. The answer is you're correct. Eddie, I need to go to the restroom now. 3 things that you do when you can, not when you have to. Raising money for a startup is something that you do when you can, not when you have to. Never get to the point where you run out of money. Okay. What do investors really need or look for in investment?
Wait. What happened with that story?
I finished it. Oh.
No. Did you take her to the bathroom or no?
No.
Oh. She didn't pee her pants, did she?
No, she actually held it.
Good for her. All right. We're good.
Okay. What do angel investors look for when they make an investment? They look to triple their money over 5 years. If you tell an investor, look, put $1 million and in 3 years your million will become 1.1 million, you're not going to get an investment. If you tell them that in 5 years you're going to get 3x, they'll invest. If you tell them that in 10 years they'll get 9x, they'll invest. Another way to look at it is 2.6 times the invested capital in 3.5 years. These are different sources. They really all say pretty much the same thing. Or 27% internal rate of return, which, guess what, gives you the same numbers. This is what investors look for in an investment.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, yes.
How do you arrive at that multiple of 2.6 times the invested capital in 3.5 years?
The 2.6 would of the invested capital in 3.5 years is will correlate very closely to the 3x over 5 years. It's just a different period. These are
Wouldn't this be industry specific?
No. This is different sources of information, and you'll notice that I put 4 different sources of what angel investors expect. By the way, even when I say 5, look at this, what it says. Even the title here says 2 to 5x returns. Those, different sources, different investors would look for different things. Okay, it's also a matter of, in this type of companies, we're seeing less. In another type of company, we're seeing more. So I just wanted to give you a sense. I'm going to skip crowdfunding, term sheet, the due diligence process, talk briefly about exit strategy, and then we'll talk about the test, and then I'll put you in your teams. Okay, fair enough? Okay, exit strategy, good, bad, and ugly. IPO used to be the #1 exit strategy. Back in the 1990s, mid to late 1990s, everybody went for IPO. Since Sarbanes-Oxley and other things came out after the 2001 market crash, it became so hard to be a public company that the number of initial public offerings, companies that become public, went down very dramatically. The most common one these days is an acquisition. You're building a company and you have that in mind, and this is something that you will probably write in your business plan. What is the target? Are you going to sell this business in a few years? Now, I know a few of you here are not thinking about that, but actually are thinking about the last one, the third one, which is I'm actually building a viable business. And there have been quite a few companies that started and became viable and stayed viable, never looked for investments, never looked for acquisitions. Okay? I'm not going to tell you too many stories about my startups and successful startups. I want to go and talk about the last thing that you're going to do in your business plan is write the executive summary. The executive summary is the last thing that we write. Somebody asked me after one of the assignments, when I gave you an assignment and you talked about the product, somebody asked me, seriously, chapter 6 is going to be the first time that the investor, the person who reads the business plan, gets to see what the product or service is? The answer is no. The first time you're going to see it is going to be in the executive summary. The executive summary is a full page. That page needs to show you what the bottom line is. So essentially, if you think about it this way. If your executive summary is not interesting, I'm not reading the next 6 pages. Only if your executive summary gives me something interesting enough to read, and I'm not talking about a story, a very sad or very happy story. I'm talking about the foundation of the business plan, the essentials of the business plan. If I don't read this, if this is not interesting, I'm not going to read the next 6 pages. If it is interesting, I will read the next 6 pages. If the next 6 pages are interesting, I'm going to read the appendices. Okay? What do? This is where we start. We start by saying, our company will build this product. Now, do me one favor. Some of you, even though I made this comment, some of you still write how amazing we are and how uniquely positioned we are and so on. Don't. The more you use words like these, the less credibility you get from the person who's reading the business plan. Okay? Be objective. Write it as almost as if you're writing it as a third person. What do? Why do you do that? Why is it so important to you? What is the market segment size? So what's the total available market? Now, do you need to write the entire total available market, serviceable available market, and so on and so forth? No. The market, Div, when you talked about a market that you said is flat, it's enough to say the market size is 24 million people. This is enough for the executive summary. What is the competition landscape? Why will you be competitive? Oh, by the way, we have patents and we already have our first 12 million subscribers. What will the financials look like? Now, you can actually put the very high level of what the total available market, what your revenue line is, what your gross margin is, what your net profit is. Look, I only put 4 lines here. That would be good enough to put in here because they do care about the financials and maybe you want to include them in that first page. Again, very brief version of it, not a very detailed. There is a place where you're going to put the detailed version. How much investment do you need? Okay, why exactly do you want me to read this? Oh, because we need $1 million. What do you need $1 million for? What is the return on investment for me? What's your exit strategy? How do I make money? Is there a way for me to triple my money in the next 5 years if I put whatever you need this year? You have to write this. These are 3 sources of articles that are, not too deep, but deep enough that can guide you through writing a business plan, an executive summary. Let me suggest this. Since there are, on average, 3 members in every team, assign one of those articles. Those are not long articles. Assign one of those articles to each member of your team. Read them before, as a team, you write the executive summary. Okay? Nod with your head. Yes, exactly. That's a nod, Robin. Okay. We're not going to take a break. We already did, 3 times students evaluation. We already did students evaluation. I'm not going to check attendance. You all got attendance. Let me go through the requirements for next week. Then I'll talk about the exam. Then I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms. I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms to think about what you did. Okay, financial highlights. You need in the financial section, you need the financial highlights for 5 years. Revenue, profit, cash flow with credible numbers. I built an Excel spreadsheet for you to use that would make it very easy for you. Now, can you copy from the spreadsheet and put it in your business plan? Yes, or if it was me, I would format it nicer. It's not that hard. Use the spreadsheet just to give you the numbers, but it's really up to you. Funding, how much investment do you need? How are you going to use it? Exit strategy. What's your plan? How do we exit out of this business? 1 page, make it look appealing. Before I move on, any questions about the financial plan section? Not seeing any. Executive summary. I'm looking for a very clear, pragmatic, identifying the customers. How many are there? What is the value to them? In essence, what does the company do? How are we unique against the customers? What customers use now? And who the competition is? Why will you be successful? This is the place to write it in the executive summary. Financial and investment summary. Good overview of the 5-year financial projections, very high level. How much investment do you need? How will you use it? Remember, you already wrote this here. Now you're just putting the summary. 1 page, appealing. Any questions before we move on to talk about the final exam next week? I think we're going to talk about that. Any questions? Is it too much today? A little too much, Rashmi? I know. It's, you know, I wish we had more time. But I tailored this class to the level of, to how much time we have and how much engagement. And I wish we could do more exercises today, but we just, this is a tough one. Okay, let me just summarize, first of all, the class. These, if there's one slide that I wish you would print and put on the wall, it's this one. The important things are your curiosity, pragmatism, empathy, and passion. That's what would make you successful. Empathy allows you to understand your customers, but also your investors. Startup companies are not large companies. Don't make the assumptions that large companies make. Unique value proposition, you have to offer a unique value proposition to a unique set of customers that uniquely appreciates your unique value proposition. Those for whom the new value divided by new cost is a lot bigger, significantly bigger than the old value divided by the old cost. You want to be a big fish in a small pond. I already told you, you want to be the fish in the pond that you can be in, but you're a startup. That's a small pond. I want you to remember the total available market times penetration is SAM, serviceable available market, times market share, revenue units. Sustainable competitive advantage and the difference between differentiation and competitive advantage. If it costs $100 to make, how much would you charge? Answer, cost has nothing to do with price. Price is based on how much your customers are willing to pay. I want you to remember that what the customer pays is not necessarily what you get paid. The customer pays this, the channel takes this, you get that. Your gross margin causes what your costs are. Finally, write for the reader. Think about the person reading it. Now, a general comment. I want you to check your grade book. Between now and next Wednesday, I want you to check your grade book. If you think that the grade book is missing something, if there is a grade missing because of my mistake, or that you got a low grade because of a mistake that I made, or that you got a grade that is too high because of a mistake that I had, I'm going to guess the third one you're probably not going to let me know. The first two, I'm pretty sure that you're going to let me know. But let me know that before the final exam next week. Once you're done with the final exam, I'm going to be reading the business plans. I'm going to put those grades, and it's going to be hard to change them. Okay? So go check if something is missing, even if you think, oh, we already talked about that. If something is missing, if something is not right, let me know. Okay? Yes. Okay, let's talk about the final exam. The final exam is made of two parts. The business plan itself, which is the culmination of everything we worked on in this class. Go back, fix what you need to fix. Some of you did not get brilliant grades on every element. If you didn't get a brilliant grade on any element, look at the comments that you got, go fix it. The first part of your grade is actually, I'm going to regrade every section because from my perspective, you may have completely rewritten every section. I'm going to regrade every one of your sections. Then I'm going to look for business plan consistency, and I'm going to make sure that it's the right overall length. That's the business plan. Any questions about the business plan? No. The presentation itself. The presentation happens before I read the business plan. I mean, I did read some of the parts of the business plan, but you may have changed them since then. The presentation is what happens next Wednesday. And I'll show you exactly how it will will it take place? You have 5 minutes. I'm sorry, I need to fix this. You don't have 10 minutes. You have 5 minutes. There's a total of 10 minutes. 5 minutes to present, 5 minutes for me to give you feedback. Now, I typically say entire team present, but you will see here that I am not making this a requirement anymore. Since we're not doing this in the classroom, due to technical challenges, you might not feel comfortable doing this as a team. I've seen teams, you did that, one of the teams did that, presenting something as a team. That's fine. I'm leaving it up to you. It's not a requirement this semester. And you have to be convincing. So submit your business plan, your complete business plan by Tuesday night on Canvas as assignment. There is an assignment there that's open until Tuesday. Do not miss that date. It needs to be submitted by Tuesday. One of the reasons this is even more important this time is because I will be printing them and I will be looking at them when you present to me. When you present next Wednesday, I'm going to write notes on your business plan, so your business plan better be in my hands. The presentations will take place next Wednesday. The presentation itself must be uploaded to Canvas. You have 5 minutes to present and 5 minutes for me to ask you questions and for you to answer them. This link is very important. When you click on this link, it will take you to my Calendly account. I made 20 time slots next Wednesday. Each one of them is 15 minutes, so I have time to switch between different teams for you to be there, for you to present. Now, if you don't mind presenting to the entire class, choose any time between 6:30 and 9:45 p.m. Okay? We are going to use the regular Zoom link for that. If you would like to present privately, if there is any reason why you need to present privately, I made 8 time slots in the morning. Those are all going to be individual Zoom calls. So I'm going to send anyone who presents, I think it's 10 a.m. to 11, and if I'm not mistaken, 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. There are 4 time slots in each one of those. If you sign up to one of those, I'm going to send you a private link, and the only person who's going to see your presentation is going to be me. It's going to be me and you. Okay? Yes? You remember the grading, the final exam gives you 40%. 30 of them are for the business plan itself that I'm going to grade after the presentation, 10% for the presentation, and the rest you remember. Okay, I am done. Before I'm going to send you to the breakout rooms for you to work on the financials and start playing with the spreadsheet. Any questions before I'm sending you there?
Professor?
Yes.
I have one question. I might have not followed that, but is there any restriction about number of slides that we want to add?
Let's do this. Don't have more than 400 slides. It will be very interesting to see how you go through 400 slides in 5 minutes. The restriction is for it's a good question. The restriction is for 5 minutes, not number of slides.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Professor, on a similar note, for the presentation, you said that there's we need to upload it on Canvas. So is there a deadline? Do we upload it along with the business plan on Tuesday night?
Actually, that's a great question. Uploaded before you present. The reason for that is I'm not grading that separately, that file separately. The reason I want you to put the presentation there is if we run into technical challenges, I have the file. I can look at the file. So as long as it's before your presentation.
So does that mean we pre-record the presentation or no?
I'm not planning on recording it. So if you want me to record it.
No. So does that mean we just upload the PowerPoint? Is that what you mean by uploading to Canvas?
You're uploading the PowerPoint to Canvas just so that when you present, if you have technical difficulties in sharing, then I have the presentation in front of me.
But there's no audio on that presentation at that point, or is there?
Why would you put? No.
Okay.
You're presenting through Zoom.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and I would want you to share and present in Zoom. Any other questions? Anyone? Well, then before I send you to your rooms to think about what you did, you know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first class when I got to see 32 of you in person. I wish we would have done everything here in person. Reality is what reality is. I really do think that the way to get out of where we are now is through our own ingenuity, your entrepreneurship, and it starts here and it starts with you. If you need anything from me after the class, do me a favor. Everything related to grades is between now and the final exam. Of course, if you're not happy with your final exam grade, you can talk to me after that, but don't wait too long. And again, you know, I'm very good at negotiations. I can convince you why you should get a lower grade, but students that took my classes before would tell you that I'm not the worst grader at all in the world. I enjoyed having you. I wish you success. As I said, I'm available to you not only with respect to 6222, but if any of you wants to pursue a business, whether it's the business that you're presenting here or anything else, and you want to brainstorm with someone, you want to use someone as a sounding board, you know how to reach me. My email address is not going to change, and my telephone number is not going to change. With that, thank you. I enjoyed having you, and I'm going to send you to your rooms. And again, just like before, what I would suggest is you use your time as you want to use your time in that room. If you want to do that at a different time, feel free to log off. I will, if you need me, just, you know, there is a way to call for help from the breakout room. I'm going to see that note, and I'm going to come and visit you in your room. Otherwise, I'm going to wait until 9:45 if any of you are still in the room, and then I'm going to shut it down. So good luck. Hopefully, I'll see you in graduation, in person, with no masks and no anything on us, and I wish you success in life. See you later.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you, Professor.